go ahead and put an end to this now. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this regular City Commission meeting of September 9th, 7 p.m. I have one change to make, one correction to make to the agenda. Under the consent agenda, the August 26, 2019 emergency meeting minutes should be August 28th, 2019. So if we can make that one correction, I will entertain a motion for approval of the agenda as it has been published.
Second.
I have a motion from Commissioner Coleman and a second from Commissioner Hersom. Is there any discussion from the dais on the motion that's been published? Hearing none, is there any public comment on the motion that's been published? Before I ask for a vote on the agenda, I do want to recognize the absence of Commissioner Martin. He's out on business this week. We wish him safe travels. And with that, all in favor of the agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. We'd like to invite Pastor Scott Campbell. He's Destiny Community Church youth pastor, is that correct? To give us tonight's invocation. If you would, please stand for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance at the end. Welcome, Pastor.
Thank you very much. Mayor and councilman and fellow board, I'd just like to say thank you for opening up a meeting like this with prayer and recognizing that. So, if we will, let's bow our heads. Heavenly Father, we thank you for your many blessings. God, we thank you for the opportunity to live in fellowship with you through the forgiveness of Jesus Christ day in and day out. God, I thank you for all your many gifts in our lives, and many of those we take for granted daily. Tonight I pray for our mayor and our city officials. God, I'm asking that you would grant them with the wisdom to govern and to counsel in the interests and the issues of our times. God, I pray you give them a sense of welfare for our people, the ability to work together in harmony even when there is disagreement. And I pray for personal peace in their lives and a true joy in their government duties. I pray for this agenda sent before them today. And God, I pray that you give assurance that they would please you, Lord, and that they would benefit those who live and work in this beloved city of Newberry. It is in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Pastor. Pastor Campbell not only delivers a faithful and inspiring prayer, he also offers wonderful roadside assistance service. When your bus breaks down on the way to Montgomery, he's right there to help you out. All right, we have our very first presentation is from Mr. Brown. He's going to tell us a little bit about Gator Growl and upcoming changes to the program. Come on down here, introduce yourself. We've got your presentation up there for everybody to see at home.
All right, thank you. So hello everyone, members of the public and City Commission. My name is Cooper Brown. I'm the Associate Producer of Sales and Outreach for University of Florida's Homecoming and Gator Growl 2019, and I'm here to speak a little bit about this year's show. So if you aren't aware, Gator Growl is a treasured Gainesville tradition that allows UF students, alumni, and the Gainesville community to participate in the largest student-run pep rally in the nation. Gator Growl is taking place on October 4th at Flavitt Field, which is on the campus of the university, with the doors opening at 5:30 p.m. At Gator Growl, there is a fun activity for everyone. Attendees enjoy family-friendly live performances, food trucks, interactive games, special appearances from the Florida Gators football team, UF cheer, and more. This year, we are proud to present country music artists Chase Rice and Lanco as the performers at Gator Growl, with Scooter Magruder, a viral comedian and Gator alum, will be hosting the event. Chase Rice is a Florida-born country artist currently climbing the charts with his latest album hitting #1 on the country charts and reached the top 5 of the all-genre Billboard 200. Lanco has garnered nominations from the Country Music Association, iHeartRadio, Country Music Television, and the American Music Awards. Gator Growl host Scooter Magruder is a UF alum and YouTube sensation. Magruder's football commentary and skits regularly garner millions of views. UF students have worked tirelessly to make this homecoming the best yet. Gators support Gators, and we appreciate the time you all have taken to listen to us speak today. We hope to see you all at Gator Growl on October 4th. General admission tickets are $25, and pit passes, which offer closer views to the main stage, are $50. To purchase these tickets, you can follow these simple steps. Log on to Ticketmaster or create an account. Search Gator Growl 2019. select general admission tickets or pit tickets in the quantity you would want to enter, and then enter your credit card information. And now I'm just going to speak off script because that's just, yeah. So my main purpose in this year's Gator Growl show is not only expanding to University of Florida students and alumni, but extending into Alachua County and Greater Alachua County, because I feel my experience working with Gator Growl is that we haven't necessarily tried to appease Alachua County and what the members that live not just in Gainesville, but cities like Newberry, High Springs, Archer, Alachua, what you all would want to enjoy in Gator Growl. I know it may be a long drive to university, but it's really going to be a great show. It's going to be a really family-friendly environment, which is something a little different this year. You can bring your kids, your lawn chairs. It's going to be a really great environment. You do not have to attend the event to purchase a ticket. If you wish to just donate a ticket, we are actually partnering with Children's Miracle Network and Dance Marathon Families for all donated tickets for those families so they can attend the event if you are not able to attend the event. But like I said, the vibe at this year's show is just a lot different. It's really family friendly. There's no like vulgarity on the stage per se, as in years past. It's just really a family friendly event where the whole Alachua County, literally anyone can just show up and have a good time at this year's University of Florida homecoming. So with that, I'll yield to questions and my time as the chair.
Well, first, let me just thank you, Mr. Brown, for coming out. This is the first time that I've been here that anyone from Gator Growl has come out and invited Newberry and the surrounding areas. I know that I haven't taken my family in years past because I got the feel that it was certainly geared towards college-age kids, and my kids, wouldn't be appropriate. So I hope it works out well because I'd like to see Gator Growl as a family-friendly event every year from here on out.
Absolutely.
And I really do. I just want to start by saying thank you for coming out here and inviting us. Anybody have any questions about what's going on? Changes? Commissioner Farnsworth? He is the FSU fan, so
Okay.
just watch out.
Are they still going to have the skits? What do they call it?
So
Skits?
I don't know how it was done in years past, but we do some skits on video. So we actually have a whole director team that they go. I know last year they actually drove up to Tallahassee and filmed some skits at FSU and then played them on the big screen at Gator Growl. I think we're going to Auburn and doing that this year because we play Auburn for the homecoming game. But in terms of skits, we do a lot of video skits and then play them on the big screen at Gator Growl. Yes, sir.
Any other questions? So it starts at 6, but people can come, spend earlier time just
Yes,
being
sir.
on
The doors
field,
open at
throwing
5:30,
frisbees.
and then the show opens at 6 o'clock.
Okay.
So it's a great family-friendly environment, and I encourage you to purchase a ticket even if you can't attend.
And one last time, what's the, it's gatorgrowl.org is the website you go to buy the tickets at?
So it's actually on Ticketmaster, and then you would just search Gator Growl 2019, and then from there the steps are pretty
Okay.
simple.
And you're on Facebook as well?
Yes, sir.
What's the Facebook
The Facebook page is UF Homecoming and Gator Growl.
You have Homecoming and Gator Growl.
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right.
All right. Well,
Does the audience, since we have somebody, does the audience have any questions for Mr. Brown? All right, hearing none, thank you, sir. We
Thank you.
appreciate you coming out so much.
thank you.
Yeah. Have a safe drive home. And now it is my pleasure to read into the record Human Resources Professional Day Proclamation. Quote, I am convinced that nothing we do is more important than hiring and developing people. At the end of the day, you be on people, not on strategies. Close quote. That's from Lawrence Bossidy. Whereas human resources promotes excellence in the advancement of protocols, making every effort to serve the needs of all employees, and whereas leaders in human resources create a safe, hospitable, results-oriented work environment in the best interest of all employees whereas human resource professionals are responsible for implementing effective practices for the hiring, training, development, and retention, giving citizens great quality employment, and whereas each day human resources ensures every employee is treated with dignity, respect, ensuring inclusiveness, diversity, and fair employment practices. Now, therefore, I, Jordan Marlowe, Mayor of the City of Newberry, Florida, do hereby proclaim September 26th, 2019, Human Resources Professionals Day, signed this 9th day of September, 2019. Do we have anybody here to accept this. We'll get a picture with Deborah later. Okay. All right. And we will move on to a presentation from our very own Newberry Main Street organization. Madam President, are you going to lead this?
PowerPoint for you. Sorry, Mr. Maltby. I'll share.
He can share with.
Can you share? Thank you. Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners, for this opportunity to present Main Street. In the 13 years since the City of Newberry got the Main Street designation, the Commission, Mayor, and managers have come and gone. But the city's comprehensive plan has not changed since it was amended in 2005 to include provisions for the Main Street program. Tonight is our endeavor to refresh the Commission on the purpose and the progress of the organization. And so Lisa Tate, our treasurer, secretary, sorry, will lead us through the presentation. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, Commission, Mr. Maltby, Mr. New, Ms. Rice. Appreciate the opportunity to come before you tonight and hopefully provide just some additional insight into about Newberry Main Street and its role here in Newberry. I know you've heard a lot of the things we've had to say before. A lot of you know the history, but we'll just talk a little bit more about it. See if I can go to slide presentation. Okay. Welcome to Main Street. The downtown of the city is the driving force of the city. Ownership and connectedness in the downtown area promotes a sense of well-being, belonging, and pride in one's own city. And to share a little bit about the history, I think Joy touched on it a little bit, that the city comprehensive plan was created back in 2004 to consider growth of Newberry while at the same time revitalize the downtown area and appreciate the history and maintain that as well. By doing this, that would increase the overall economic health of the city. And the excerpts that are on this slide, and I know you'll have copies of this too, I won't bore you with reading all through them, they were all pulled out of the comprehensive plan. Research has shown that a healthy and vibrant downtown improves the economic health and quality of life in the community. The city's goal at that time was to secure the certification by the end of 2007. And this was accomplished by Gary Clark, who was designated, what I understand, it was before my time, was accomplished by him in 2006. And here's just a little more continued history. This was accomplished through certification with the Florida Main Street, which is also a part of the National Main Street program. And with this, the city planned to partner with the Main Street organization and incorporate this into its planning and development strategies. A little more about the importance of downtown. It is the heart of every city. Businesses in the downtown area are locally and family-owned independent entities. By continuing to have activities and businesses that bring traffic into the downtown area, that also regenerates the life into the downtown. And you look at your own downtown and see, what does it say? Would you want a business here? Would you want to move here? Would you want to shop here? That's what people see when they drive through the downtown areas. The National Trust for Historic Preservation describes the four-point approach as a unique development tool that works to revitalize the downtown district and leverage local assets, including the cultural and architectural heritage aspects, and includes the local enterprises and the community pride. These points are, as listed here, organization, promotion, design, and economic restructuring, by blending those all together. So what is Main Street? Main Street's all of these things. It's economic development, it's historic preservation, it's commercial development. It's inclusive of all of these concepts, and then that transfers throughout the community. The importance of a downtown. These are some examples of the cost to empty downtown storefronts. The average comes from the Florida Main Street. This is not necessarily Newberry's numbers, but is the average that, they've done some of the math and crunching the numbers. There's several things: lost sales, employees, rent, business profit, property taxes, bank deposits, real estate loans, business loan demand, sales tax to the government, utilities, local advertising, and again, traffic downtown. Another consideration is the amount of private sector investments in the buildings of downtown. This number, again, is a reflection from the Florida Main Street number and not Newberry's numbers. A little bit of history about the National Main Street. In 1977, they put together 3 pilot programs. What I find especially interesting about this slide is that one of the pilot programs was in Galesburg, Illinois, which is very near to where I came from. And the bottom picture I recognized right off as a street that I had walked many times in Galesburg, Illinois. It's a lovely town. Florida joined this effort in 1985 with the National Main Street. The Florida Main Street is administered by a division of the Historical Resources, which is under the guise of the Florida Department of State. And then they are affiliated with the National Main Street. So certification in one of those doesn't guarantee the next level, but typically you are certified by both of those organizations. Here are some of the other statistics that were presented by Florida Main Street and the numbers that they gathered. I might add that some of these numbers might not be reflective of Newberry, though I'm pretty sure the volunteer hours are, though, and it feels like that sometimes. The components for success, these are the good points for the success of Main Street. And as you read through those, I think the main one here is downtown is never finished. It's always a work in progress. It grows and develops with the needs of the city. The 8 guiding principles of a successful Main Street are that it be comprehensive. It takes many projects to get to the end product. Not just one project will make that happen. It's incremental. Projects start small, then they become more sophisticated, and then become more and more ambitious. Self-help. Local leaders must be committed to the success. No one else can save the downtown. Public and private partnerships. Both sectors must have a vital interest in the viability of the downtown. Everybody must be interested. Capitalizing is recognizing the uniqueness of the businesses, districts, or the uniqueness of the facilities, and that's the foundation for growth of success, is to expound upon those, build on those, capitalize on those. Quality must be emphasized in all programs. Change is attitude, and practice changes are necessary to support as the program grows. With growth comes change, with change comes growth. Implementation oriented is activity creates confidence and involves participation, and then with that involvement, you see greater participation, more people have a curiosity, have another interest to get involved. Making the statement, public investment stimulates the private investment, both personally, financially interested. Here is the National Main Street Budget Standard and Budget Goals, typically broken down into a third support from the government, a third from private, and third from miscellaneous as sources of fundings. What I might mention here, though, is as Main Streets are in their startup years or in reorganization, which is really where we're considered since there's been so many changes in Main Street, that the ratio is greater support initially getting it off the ground, and that's perfectly acceptable. So having said all of that, here's just a reiteration of some of the things that we've been doing in Main Street and some of the things that with the funding that we were provided last year and looking at anticipated continued support through this year, what we have been actively doing a little bit behind the scenes. I know we haven't reported to you as often as we should, and that I feel like that's something we should change going forward, to come forward and let you know a little more what we're doing. We have initiated the farmers market. We did the research for the meal products and the project and the tourist-oriented directional signs, the TODs, that had been asked of us. Continue to run the art gallery and gift shop. And that includes a quarterly open house where we invite the artists, have wine, cheese, finger food, meet and greets. We support the Oakview Middle School Art Club. We get the festivals going each year, stay involved in the Christmas tree lighting, support for West Fest, which includes, whatever it is they ask us to do with, what we're capable of doing. We have been gearing up and being prepared to be involved in the 125th year celebration, as that we've been asked. We are running an art contest for that. And we also support the Concerned Citizens Group for Children, a local group here in town that helps them get backpacks and get ready for school each year, those types of things. So, having said all that, I think Daniel Burnham said it best. To love one's city and have a part in its advancement and improvement is the highest privilege and duty of each citizen. See you downtown. Any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Lisa. Great presentation. We appreciate it. Just on that topic of 125 years, how's that content? I'm very excited about that. How's that? We still
I
on
know
track?
the call to artists has been going out. The
Right.
two gallery curators have really been staying on top of that.
Great.
Can you speak to that at all, or?
Just a little. Just the fact that the call to artists went out because our main curator for the gallery is also a member of GFFA, and she has access to their database of e-blasts and such. So that's gone out to all of their members as well as anybody else who's been connected.
Okay, so for summarize for folks watching at home, the answer was the call to artists has gone out, and we hopefully we get a great response for that. Just so everybody knows that we're coming up on Newberry's 125th year anniversary. It will be next year in 2020. We've put together the makings of a small committee. We don't have members from all of the other groups in town on that committee because we're already liaisoning with all of them. So we don't have a member from Main Street on that committee, a member from, because we want you guys to focus on your work, and we're just going to liaison with you and communicate back and forth that way. But we're going to launch off all of those plans here directly. But Main Street is the kickoff organization to get us hopefully the contest inspired, the community loved piece of artwork that we can then use for the entire year. So great to hear that is progressing well. Any other, do you want to speak to that, Joy?
I just want to say thank you. Our challenges are great, but our volunteer staff is committed to improving our bottom line and working hard and hand in hand with the city and the community. Speaking to you about the 125th anniversary committee, I would think it'd be great to have all the organizations involved, even though we're already working on other things we don't want to duplicate. So, I mean, if it's your pleasure, we would like to be involved in that as well. And
Well, I think what we've managed to do is overlap. We have somebody that's on the committee that's also involved in Main Street or the liaison with Main Street, so that we have that with the Watermelon Festival.
who is that? I'm sorry.
We have, I can't think of off my, is it,
Okay.
it's Marlon
So you
Day.
could serve for both?
Marlon Day is on Main Street,
Okay.
so he's our liaison for
We
Main
just want
Street.
to help
that's
however we
on.
can, so.
Right, so we want to keep the lines of communication open, but we also want to make sure that everybody stays focused. So we have Marlon
Thank you.
is on that committee. We have somebody that's on the Watermelon, Miss Linda is on that committee. Sierra is on that committee.
I don't need
So-
all the names, but thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
We just want to be
So
involved.
we
Thank
have
you.
lots of people who are branched out. Any questions from the dais for Miss Lisa on the presentation? Hearing none, thank you guys for all that you do. We appreciate it very much. We've come to our point in tonight's agenda where there's public comment. These are the non-controversial 2-minute type public comment. There's a time at the end of the night that you can have a longer conversation if you wish.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. I'm Marlon Day with the Alachua County Library District. I'm the branch manager here in Newberry. Wanted to bring to your attention some things that's going on at the library this month. We've started a new story time on Saturdays for people who can't bring their preschoolers during the week. It's going to be at 11 a.m. and it's not every Saturday, but it's most Saturdays. The Saturday that we don't have it, we have a Pokemon Club for the older children. We are also starting a brand-new romance readers club next week. We're very excited about that. Of course, our Tempting Reads book club has been meeting at the library for 15 years maybe, and it's very successful. They have a lot of fun, so we're hoping that the Romance Readers Book Club can have the same success. And it's going to be in the morning on Thursdays. Thursday, September the 19th, the first day is going to kick off at 10:30 a.m. So if you know any romance readers, let us know. And one of the interesting things in library school that they mentioned is romance readers read an average of 40 books a month, more than one a day. So if you read a romance, you read a lot. Yes.
That's a lot of romance.
That's a lot of romance. It is. Finally, on Thursday, September 26th, the North Central Florida Railroad and Operation Lifesaver is bringing back their railroad safety program. We had this about 3 years ago, and it was very successful. We're hoping to duplicate that success. September 26th is National Railroad Safety Week, so we'll have people from the railroad there, including engineers, and one of the kids really loved talking to the engineers last year and learning how they drive the trains and the interesting things that they do. They have to know like every single block, really, of the railroad tracks from on the route that they're on. So that's everything that's coming up here at the library for the next couple weeks. All our events are on our website. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for Marlon? Commissioner Farnsworth?
Which commissioner read the most in the summer reading program?
I
Still
don't have
going
that. I don't have that, and if I did have it, I wouldn't be allowed to share it. But we appreciate everybody that participated in the summer reading program. I hope everybody got some good books read and enjoyed it.
Yeah, we did. All right, everybody got any other questions for Marlon? As always, Marlon, you're doing an incredible job over there. Keep it up.
Thank you.
Any other public comment? Public, was that a yes, Miss Peggy? I'll give you a chance because I know you got a walker to get there. Okay. Okay. Hearing no other public comment, we will move to the consent agenda. I have a motion to approve the consent agenda. I have a motion from Commissioner Farnsworth, a second from Commissioner Coleman. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passed unanimously. And we will enter into a script. So folks, bear with us. We have to read this verbatim to make sure we get everything right. City of Newberry Commission hereby convenes the public hearing on the City of Newberry's fiscal year 2019 2020 tentative millage and tentative budget as required by Florida statutes, chapters 129 and 200, and as advertised in the Truth and Millage trim notices. If anyone in our audience is here for the purpose of contesting their assessment, a petition for adjustment with the Value Adjustment Board should be filed no later than 5 p.m. tomorrow, Tuesday, September 10th, 2019. The petition forms are available in the property appraiser's office. This evening, we will take a number of actions related to the adoption of millage and budgets. The final public hearing on these matters will be held on Monday, September 23rd, 2019 at 7 p.m. in this same location, Newberry City Hall Commission Chambers. I encourage you, if you have not already done so, to get a copy of the agenda so you may more easily follow the proceedings this evening. Citizen comments will be taken following the overview of the proposed budget by the City Manager and Director of Finance and Administration. The City Attorney will now present an overview of the Truth and Millage legislation, followed by the City Manager and Director of Finance and Administration's explanations of the tentative rolled back millage rates. And with that, City Attorney, I'll let you read the fiscal year 2019-2020 proposed millage rates and proposed general city budget overview.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In 1980, the Florida Legislature adopted what is known as the Truth and Millage legislation, or TRIM as it's called. The goal of the legislation was to ensure that taxpayers were advised of the public hearings at which the local taxing authorities' budgets and millage rates are considered and adopted. Each year, the property appraiser completes an assessment of the value of all the property and certifies to each taxing authority the taxable value of the property within its jurisdiction. Each taxing authority then notifies the property appraiser of its proposed millage rate, its rollback rate, and the date, time, and place of the public hearing to consider the proposed millage rate and the proposed budget. Once the property appraiser receives the information, he sends a notice of by first-class mail to every taxpayer on the assessment roll. The notice contains the information from the taxing authorities as to the proposed millage rates and the time and place of the public hearing. The notice sent to taxpayers is called the trim notice. The trim notice lists what the taxes were for the prior year, what the taxes will be if the proposed budget changes are made, and what the taxes will be if no budget changes are made. This information is listed for each taxing authority. The notice also lists all voted levies for debt service. The purpose of the trim notice is to provide taxpayers with sufficient basic information to enable them to participate in the public hearing process.
City Manager?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. During this year's budget process, the Commission held 4 budget workshops to publicly discuss the budget for fiscal year 2020. At our last workshop, the Commission requested we hold 1 additional workshop. That workshop is scheduled for Monday, September 16th, 2019. The budget presented before you tonight includes the following major items based upon our discussions. 1, no increases in fire assessment rates. Continued funding for renewal and replacement of infrastructure. Continued emphasis on public safety. Continued funding for renewal and replacement of existing infrastructure. Minor adjustments to utility rates. The budget is funded at the tentative millage rate of 6.3623 mils that the Commission set in July. The rate and budget set at this hearing tonight is what will be advertised is the highest rate the Commission can adopt. The Commission can lower the property tax rate to the final hearing if it chooses. Dallas Lee, our Director of Finance and Administration, will now lead us through a discussion of the millage and the budget.
One of the requirements of the truth in millage legislation is to provide information about why the tentative millage rate is higher or lower than the rollback millage rates. The tentative millage rate for the city of Newberry is 6.3623 mils, which is 6.03% more than the rollback rate of 6.0006 mils. The rollback millage rate is defined as the millage rate which, exclusive of new construction, additions to structure, deletions, and property added to geographic boundary changes, will provide the same ad valorem tax revenue for each taxing authority as was levied during the prior year. The City of Newberry's tentative millage rate is the rate at which the City Commission has, through due study and consideration, determined it is needed to fund the municipal operations of the City of Newberry in the best interest, public health, and welfare of its citizens. The total proposed city budget for fiscal year 2019-2020 is $26,086,032, which is a net increase from the amended fiscal year 2019 budget of $24,873,876. This equates to a 4.9% increase, or $1,212,186. Half of this increase is due to budgeted reserves, and half can be attributed to operating expenditure increases. Mr. Mayor, that concludes my comments on the tentative budgets presented to you this evening. I'd be happy to answer any questions about the budget at this time.
Okay, I would now like to invite comments from the commission to staff, if you have any. Hearing none, I would now like to invite citizen comments on the fiscal year 2019-2020 proposed millage rates and proposed budgets. Please come forward to the podium if you wish to address the commission. We do request that each speaker try to limit his or her comments to 3 minutes. The hearing will continue until everyone who wishes to address the commission has had an opportunity to speak. Would anybody like to speak towards the budget? Hearing none, I will now close the public comment section of this public hearing. Director of Finance Administration.
Mr. Mayor, the document before you included in your agenda packet is the City of Newberry fiscal year 2019-2020 budget summary and includes the items and changes that were described earlier. Any additional adjustments to this tentative budget and millage should be made by motion at this time. As a reminder, the millage rate that the Commission adopts tonight will be the highest rate the Commission can adopt at its final hearing.
Okay, does the commission wish to make any adjustments to the tentative budget or millage? Commissioner Norfleet? Commissioner Coleman?
I say that we need to lower it to 5.999, especially with the information that we have received from the property appraiser's office.
Okay. So it looks like with the regular 5.999, we'll be able to have a more congenial workshop next time around and be able to fund those considerations at the 5.999. Do I have a,
That's in the form of a motion.
I have a motion from Commissioner Coleman, a second from Commissioner Farnsworth. Do we need to vote on that to switch it out now
Yes, sir.
or at the end?
Vote.
Okay, so do I have a vote to change the millage rate of 5.999 for the rest of this budget hearing?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes unanimously. Dallas?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. At 5.999, the total proposed city budget for fiscal year 2019-2020 is now $25,988,132, which is a net increase from the amended fiscal year 2019 budget of $24,873,876. This equates to a 4.4% increase, or $1,114,256. Half of this increase is budgeted reserves and half can be attributed to operating expenditure increases. Florida statutes require that the name of the taxing authority, the millage rate to be levied, the rollback rate, and the percentage increase over the rollback rate be publicly announced. Accordingly, I'm on the wrong script. Accordingly, the City of Newberry City Commission has determined that the proposed millage rate of 5.9999 mils is necessary to fund the tentative general municipal budget. The proposed millage rate represents a decrease of 0.01% from the rollback rate of 6.0006 mils. However, there is no change from the previous year's adopted millage.
Mr. Attorney?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the resolution before the commission is 2019-30, and that incorporates the tentative millage rate of 5.9999. A resolution determining and adopting the tentative rate of taxation on real and personal property and making the annual levying of ad valorem taxes for the City of Newberry, Florida for the fiscal year 2019-20, and providing an effective date. The appropriate motion is to approve the resolution as read by its entirety.
And do I have that motion?
So moved.
I have a motion from Commissioner Farnsworth.
Second.
A second from Commissioner Coleman. Any questions from the dais on the motion on the floor? Any questions from the public on the motion on the floor? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Mr. Attorney, would you read Resolution 2019-31?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Resolution number 2019-31, a resolution of the City of Newberry, Florida relating to the city's budget for the 2019-2020 fiscal year, providing for the tentative appropriation of funds of the City of Newberry for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2019 and ending September 30, 2020, approving a proposed general city budget, setting a public hearing date, providing for publication of notice, providing an effective date. The appropriate motion would be to pass the resolution by reading of title only.
I have a motion from Commissioner
Second.
Farnsworth. A second from Commissioner Coleman. Any questions from the dais on the motion on the floor? Questions from the public on the motion on the floor? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. And Dallas.
A public hearing will be held to consider the final millage rates and final budget for the general city purposes on Monday, the 23rd of September, 2019, at 7 o'clock p.m., or as soon thereafter as the matter may be heard, in the Newberry City Hall Commission Chambers located at 25440 West Newberry Road, Newberry, Florida. Mr. Mayor and City Commissioners, the next two items relate to your utilities. The City of Newberry establishes water and wastewater rates to generate revenue sufficient to meet its operating expenses. Staff evaluates utility rates annually during the budget process and, if warranted, recommends rates be adjusted. Staff utilizes models for developing its water and wastewater rates to forecast customers, water consumption, wastewater generation, and anticipated expenses to determine whether rates will produce revenues which are sufficient to meet the expenses associated with providing water and wastewater services to our residents. Many of the city's costs to provide these services are fixed or have increased, such as personnel services, fuel, repairs, etc. Water rates were adjusted by 1% in the consumption charges and no change in the residential customer charge, for an average residential impact of 13 cents per month. Wastewater rates were adjusted by 1% in the consumption charges with no change in the customer charge, for an average residential impact of 36 cents per month. Both of these rate increases keep the city's rates as the lowest rates in the area. These rate increases also work towards the Commission's goals of operating self-sustaining utility enterprises. Both of these rate increases are below the Public Service Commission's published Consumer Price Index for water and wastewater of 2.36%. At the City Commission's budget workshop on August 5th, 2019, city staff presented the proposed water and wastewater rate changes to the Commission, and the Commission gave consensus to include those rates in the tentative budget. Customers were properly notified pursuant to Florida state statutes in their August bills. Mr. Mayor, that concludes my comments on water and wastewater rates.
Okay, does the commission have any comments on those two items that relate to utilities? Okay, hearing none, Mr. Attorney, will you read ordinance 2019-23 into the record?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ordinance number 2019-23, an ordinance pertaining to water service within the city of Newberry, amending the prior established rates and amending section 98-154 of the Code of Ordinances of the city of Newberry, amending ordinance number 2018-15, repealing all ordinances in conflict and providing an effective date. The appropriate motion is to approve ordinance 2019-23 upon first reading as read by its title only.
I have that motion.
Motion to approve 2019-23.
I have a motion from Commissioner Hersom, a second from Commissioner Farnsworth. Any questions from the dais on the motion on the floor? Does the public have any questions on the motion on the floor? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Mr. Attorney, would you read ordinance 2019-24 into the record for us?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ordinance 2019-24, an ordinance pertaining to wastewater service within the city of Newberry, amending the prior established rates in section 98-155 of the Code of Ordinances of the city of Newberry, amending ordinance number 2018-16, repealing all ordinances in conflict and providing an effective date. The appropriate motion is to approve ordinance 2019-24 upon first reading as read by its title only.
Do I have that motion? I have a motion from Commissioner Farnsworth, a second from Commissioner Hersom. Any questions from the dais on the motion on the floor? Any questions from the public on the motion on the floor? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Dallas. Well done. That moves us to item 14, which is legislative public hearing, first reading of ordinance 2019-25. Mr. Attorney, will you read that into the record, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ordinance number 2019-25, an ordinance amending ordinance 2018-14, providing consent for the entire corporate limits of the city of Newberry, Florida, to be included in a non-ad valorem assessment for municipal service benefit unit created by Alachua County for the provision of solid waste management costs, providing conditions for the consent, providing that the consent is for 1 year, and providing an immediate effective date. Appropriate motion is to pass the ordinance as read by title only.
Do I have that motion? I have a motion from Commissioner Farnsworth, second from Commissioner Norfleet. Dallas, you want to take us through the recommended action?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Annually, Alachua County requests authorization to continue the levying of a municipal services benefit unit for the purpose of providing solid waste services into the city of Newberry. The MSBU rate for residential customers for fiscal year 1920 is $16.47, which is the same amount that has been levied for the past 4 years. The collections of the MSBU fund education and outreach. They fund tools for schools, household hazardous waste collections, as well as a portion of the Rural Collection Center and closed landfill maintenance, monitoring, and compliance. Mr. Irby from the county is here if the commission has any questions. There was PowerPoint in your backup documentation.
Does the commission have any questions for staff or Mr. Irby? Okay. Hearing none, do you have any citizen comment on ordinance 2019-15? The motion on the floor is to approve. Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any nays? Motion passes unanimously. Moving on to agenda items, Resolution 2019-32. Mr. Attorney, will you read that into the record for us, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Resolution number 2019-32, a resolution of the City of Newberry, Florida, amending the prior adoption of a compensation program and salary schedules for City of Newberry employees, city clerk, and elected officials, repealing all resolutions in conflict and establishing an effective date. The appropriate motion would be to pass the resolution by reading of title only.
Do I have that motion? I have a motion from Commissioner Coleman. Do I hear a second? A second from Commissioner Farnsworth. Dallas, you want to take us through this recommended action?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. As the commission knows, the commission adopted a pay classification and compensation schedule several years ago to comport with the market. The commission also adopted a resolution establishing pay ranges for each job classification. In order to keep our pay scales in range with the market, staff proposes to increase the ranges by 2%, which is an adjustment less than the rate established by the state of Florida as the increase in the household income this year, which was 3.3%. This adjustment does not relate to staff receiving a COLA, as is the commission's direction. During this year, staff also identified several areas in our pay grid that were below market and are proposed for changes. Several positions were identified as under market when compared to our peer cities. Staff identified the most significantly under market and has requested adjustments to them to market rates. These positions are identified in red in your back material. Additionally, staff determined that most cities' pay ranges were Staff determined that the city's pay ranges were uncommonly narrow when compared to other cities. Staff has proposed to widen the pay ranges from a 40% difference between the min and the max to a 45%. This resolution also increases the city clerk's base salary by 2.5%, as was directed by the city commission at the workshop. Additionally, it increases the elected official salary by 2%. All changes are effective November 1st.
Any questions or comments on the motion on the floor? Commissioner Coleman?
So it's a 2% increase for everybody. That's what I want, okay.
No, sir, Mr. Mayor. The pay scales will adjust 2%. City staff will not see an increase based on that 2%. City staff will be eligible for up to 4% from the merit raises.
So it's just our
Gotcha.
ranges.
All right, I understand.
Any
Thank
other
you.
questions from the dais? Questions from the public? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Motion passes unanimously. And that brings us to Resolution 2019-33. Mr. Attorney, will you please read that into the record?
Resolution 2019-33, a resolution of the City of Newberry, Florida, establishing certain fees by the creation of a schedule of fees, rates, and charges superseding the fees previously established, providing authority to the city manager, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. The appropriate motion would be to pass the resolution by reading of title only.
Do I hear that motion? I have a motion from Commissioner Farnsworth. Do I have a second? Second from Commissioner Coleman. Dallas, will you take us through the recommended action?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. As the commission knows, every year we adopt a new schedule of fees, charges, and rates, which details the fees for services that are provided to our residents and customers. The city reviews these fees every year during its budget process and brings forward any changes as requested. This year, there are only minor changes in the Recreation Department.
Commission have any other questions for Dallas on the fee schedule? Hearing none, does the audience, the public, have any questions on the fee schedule? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passed unanimously. I want to thank everybody for sitting through all of those. I know it may seem like we went through that rather quickly. I understand that there were an awful lot of workshops and probably hundreds of hours of staff time and commission time sitting through those workshops and meetings to establish all of those things. So we appreciate your patience as we work through that. And with that, we are miraculously already at city comments. Mr. Manager? Now, remember you went over last time, so this time...
Mr. Mayor, I think I'll manage to keep it brief today. I first just want to report to the commission and to commend our staff and the community and overall in our storm prep efforts for Hurricane Dorian, which turned out to not be much at all for Newberry community and not a significant impact to the state of Florida. But we remember Michael, like 2 years ago, I believe it hit. Last year, Category 5, it devastated the Panhandle. Dorian was worse when it hit the when it hit the Bahamas. Michael and Newberry is not free from that type of devastation. The cities, we're about 80 miles inland from the East Coast, 60 miles inland from the West Coast, and Michael devastated communities that far in. The city of Marianna, which is a kind of a peer city to Newberry, was completely devastated. They lost 100% of their electric system. So our staff takes storm prep very seriously, and Dorian gave us plenty of time to storm prep. We prepped and we prepped and we prepped some more. And it didn't seem like it was ever going to get here, but it missed us. Thank goodness. Storm prep is never a waste in our efforts, and if we have another one show up next week, and it looks like we may, we'll go right back through the same efforts again. It's always the first one out of the gate always is more of an eye-opener. Then as we get into the second and third storm of the season, we're a little better at it, a little more efficient. But staff did a tremendous job. It was very thorough. We had all the time in the world to work on it, and just want to commend them and the community for being patient with us. We weren't as able to jump on some of those work orders that we normally do because we were busy in storm prep. But overall, very good effort, and with our sister agencies as well, lots of communication. Wanted to mention that next Monday night, the 16th, we have a budget workshop scheduled at 6 p.m. City Commission chambers. It should be our 5th and final budget workshop. Then on Tuesday, the 17th, from 2 to 5, the Hemp Industries Association of Florida, HIAF, will bring their Industrial Hemp Road Tour to Newberry. We're one of about 5 communities that is hosting the event. Our speakers, special guests, are going to be Representative Chuck Clemens and Commissioner Matt Hersom, our very own. And we're going to talk about the millions of things that you can do with industrial hemp and the potential benefits to Florida, but particularly to ag communities that aspire to be the agricultural hub of the southeastern United States. So very excited about bringing this. I ask that all residents share the heck out of it. There's 4 other communities hosting an event like this. This one was originally titled the Gainesville event, but we're hosting it in Newberry. Newberry aspires to be the ag hub of the southeastern United States. They changed the title to be the Newberry Roadshow. So we want to turn out and we want to show them that they did make a mistake by selecting Newberry. We definitely want to be the premier event for this, and we hope that there's a future for industrial hemp in Newberry.
They found out that it was hemp, you can't smoke, so they said,
Exactly. But I don't have expertise, but there reports to be tons of economic benefit to the ag community, to communities like Newberry. University of Florida and IFAS are very interested in researching it. We think there's a partnership to be had between Newberry and IFAS. It'll further our Ag Tech Park aspirations. We have 24 working farms, and we are primarily ag community. We see this as a great opportunity for Newberry. Please share the heck out of it. Let's pack the room over there. On Monday the 23rd, the Alachua Legislative Delegation meeting is being held. That's where our local delegates, Senator Perry, Representative Clemens, Representative Watson, and representative from the Live Oak area who represents High Springs. I'm not calling his name right now. Are going to be on stage. We've requested an opportunity to speak. Staff will be there. I've extended invitations to the commission so that it's an FYI, and we just want to share what's important to Newberry going into next year's legislative session. Remember, it starts in January. This meeting's 2 months earlier than normal. Normally this is a November meeting for us. So we're doing it in September this year, not as much time to prepare, but we want to get all the important items to Newberry out in front of our delegation. Also want to mention that we have, in addition to the workshop that's scheduled next Monday night, coming up through the end of September and October, we have tentatively 4 workshops for the commission. Want to kind of get that out early. If we need to shift gears, I'd like to start having that conversation about shifting gears. The first 3 you already know about are our charter review. So we have one on the 1st of October, one on the 15th of October, and one on the 29th. That one on the 29th is tentative. If we get our business done in the first two, we might not have the third. But those are planned and on everybody's calendar. The one that we haven't spoke about prior to tonight is our facility space analysis. Part of this year's budget was to do a space analysis for the municipal building, the annex across the street, Little Red Schoolhouse, and see what our needs were going to be moving into the 20-30 year future. So we are ready to, we've done a lot of work with our consultant, and we're ready to present where we are to the commission and get feedback so that we can kind of finalize the plan and then move on to the next steps. They've asked for proposed Monday the 30th, which would be 2 workshops in a row for the commission, one on Monday the 30th, and then on Tuesday the 1st would be charter review. So the consultant has proposed that date. The consultant is willing to postpone, willing to really have the workshop at the commission's preference. But I've started with floating that date, and then we can explore other dates if the commission's unwilling or thinks that's too much, or if we need to move into November, we could likely accommodate that as well.
Any immediate feedback on, seems like we've been meeting every Monday night for as long as I can remember at this point. So, we want to knock it out. Let's put it down tentatively for now. We'll move forward.
We'll tentatively book it on the 30th. We'll get an email out to you tomorrow to get it on your calendars, and if anybody has an objection, just please let us know. We'll make an adjustment if we need to.
And we want to do that at 6 p.m.?
Yes,
That
6
works
p.m.
out?
Whatever works for the commission.
Does that work for everybody? 6 p.m.
All right. And, Mr. Mayor, that concludes my comments.
Okay, thank you, sir. Mr. Attorney?
The city attorney has nothing.
All right. Madam Clerk? All right. Commissioner Norfleet?
Got an invitation to go to DCC's 13-year anniversary. I appreciate the invitation, had a good time, enjoyed the service, and really appreciate that.
Commissioner Farnsworth? Commissioner Herson? Commissioner Coleman?
This week, I don't know the dates though, but your number 1 volleyball team in 1A, just want to put a shout out to them. They played this, what was that, Friday?
Sneed.
Yeah, Sneed's. Sneed's has won the state championship the last 4 years. We played them in 5 sets, went into what volleyball is overtime, 15-15, and from then on you got to win by 2. And unfortunately, we did not win, but I can tell you it could have went either way. And these girls are unbelievable. I really, especially folks out there, to get out and support these girls because they're the real deal. So, and that's all I got.
Thank you, sir. I too want to congratulate DCC on making 13 years. I went to the second service they had. Truly amazing what they have accomplished and what they've done for this community in the past 13 years. So we wish them another happy and productive 13 here in the city of Newberry. Worked it into the sermon somehow, some way. Praise for just about every aspect of the city. I think you got to mention by name in a positive way, which is always good when a preacher says something nice about you, right? You're doing something right. I also want to invite everybody. Our local veteran organization, Tin Can, is hosting a memorial for September 11th at Clark Plantation on Wednesday. I believe it starts at 5 p.m. Is that right? 5:30? I think it's 5 p.m. It's $35 at the door. $35 at the door, or you could go tonight, and I think you can get a discount if you pre-purchase. So they're on Facebook, Tin Can. You can click right there, support. Great organization, serves the vets, serves the first responders, and helps us remember. Obviously, September 11th is coming upon us. We always take that moment at the schools to teach the kids about that day and what that day has meant for our history for the last almost 20 years now. I mean, it's amazing it's been that long, right? For us, it feels like it was just yesterday. And with that, that does it for me. Citizen comment. Citizen comment. Oh, I'm sorry. The city. Thank you so much. I was right at the top of my list, and I thought I will never forget that. I don't have to write that one down. The Lions Club and the city of Newberry have partnered for collecting supplies for relief for Hurricane. I've already forgot his name. Dorian. Dorian. Yes. It took so long to come here. I already forgot. We have an organization through the Lions Club International that can get the supplies there. They've got water and heavy items. There's different companies that are doing that. What they need are the smaller stuff that don't generally make it through. Batteries, diapers, baby food, Ziploc bags, tarps, that kind of a thing. So if you have that kind of stuff and you want to donate it, you can see there's a pile right out here at City Hall. You can take it to the Lions Club. They've got an overhang. You can put it there. I'll swing by on my way home every night, move it inside, and we'll get it to the transport. So we're at least going to do that for the next week or two until we hear back from the Lions Club about how long the transports are going to run. Mr. Manager?
I want to confirm, make sure I get this right. If you want to make cash donations towards that effort, you can do that at the customer service area. We'll collect that and we'll remit a check for the total. I think those relief organizations really like cash. It gives them the flexibility to support whatever needs are there. So just wanted to make sure our residents are aware that cash is acceptable. We'll take that at our front counters.
Absolutely. Okay. Thank you, Ms. Linden. I appreciate that reminder. Other public citizen comment? Come on down, sir.
Apologize for my attire, just got done soft.
You look just fine.
Right here.
Yeah.
My name's Robert Griffith, trapper. To people that know me, I live in Newberry Oaks subdivision. Kind of poked the bear last week with the ordinance regarding the basketball goals. I don't have a problem with it. I just would like clarification as to how long this ordinance has been involved. I've been there 10 years. My basketball goal has been up 5 years. It's never caused a problem until now. And my kids play on it probably every other day. We have neighborhood children that come and play on ours on the weekends when my children are with me. For me to move it to my driveway, which is probably a 20-degree slope, would be impossible for my kids to play basketball and would also be a greater risk, the ball rolling out into the road. As well as for them to play, I would have to move my vehicles into the road, which would cause a further issue of, decreasing a sight line, having vehicles in the way, ball rolling out, kid cutting through, things like that. Once again, I don't want to cause a problem, don't want to cause an issue, but just clarification as to why this has come about all of a sudden when basketball goals have never been a problem before.
Mr. Manager, you want to take the first whack at that?
Yeah, absolutely, Mr. Mayor. I think that I guess I got apprised a little bit of the controversy that kind of arose out of that. I think to set the record straight, the real instigator for our sweep on recreational basketball hoops in public right-of-ways was Hurricane Dorian. We have a checklist of storm prep.
Right.
And we got to the box about basketball hoops. They go airborne and they become projectiles and they're dangerous.
Completely agree. However, when Hurricane Michael came through, when Irma came through, when the hurricanes come through.
Let's let him finish his statement.
Yes, sir, I'm sorry.
I'm trying to offer an explanation, not to justify any action.
Yes,
I'm just
sir.
saying this is the genesis of it. So it was brought up during a storm prep meeting, and we asked the Public Works Department and our Codes Enforcement Department to work with people about reminding them, for primarily their own safety, to try to have them lowered. And so that was a Thursday. It was the last day of the work week, and Codes Enforcement jumped right on it. I think that maybe one of our issues is we likely, for courtesy notices, could use a little bit of a softer notification system. it says it's a notice of code violation, which it is, but there's no consequence with it. It was a please remove these things. So that was the genesis. The ordinance that you refer to is essentially any structure like that that's in public right-of-way needs to be permitted through the city. And of course, those weren't, nor if a permit application was submitted, would they be approved because of the liability they present to the city. However, I will tell you, you'd mentioned that they've been up in your neighborhood for 10 years and 5 years. It's the first time that we've made that sweep. The next storm event that comes through, we likely will make that sweep again. But when there's not a storm event occurring, it's not something we're out there policing.
Yes,
If
sir.
a neighbor complains, then we would, that's how our code enforcement works. That's how our elective board have asked us to operate our code enforcement system. And typically, if someone complains about one hoop in a neighborhood, we find it very inconsistent to address that issue and then not get everything else in the neighborhood that is similar, because the first thing people do is say, well, my neighbor's doing it.
Yes, sir.
So if someone complains about any code violation, if it's merited, we address it per the code, because we are tasked with carrying out our code whether we agree with it or not, and we try to be as consistent as we can. We try to be as easy to work with as we can and as flexible as we can. So that's kind of what happened with that. I would say that moving forward, that was a please remove them. That moving forward, I doubt that there's no plans on follow-up unless another tropical storm comes brewing.
Yes, sir.
And if asked, we're already evaluating this. This tends to be kind of a nationwide phenomenon. Put staff at a real disposition, because we are tasked with minimizing the city's liability. And when you put a hoop in a public right-of-way, as a city, if you condone it and say that's okay with us, then you're almost condoning using a street as a recreational area, which puts more liability on a city than you really would want to. So it's kind of a treacherous situation. So our position, as a no-win situation for staff. So our position is that unless people are complaining or unless we have a pending storm event, we're not planning to go out and police an item like this. And we hopefully, if we'd had more time, we'd offered a better explanation.
Yes, sir.
So that people didn't get riled about it. But hopefully we'll get the word out. We'll do a better job of communicating why we do the things that we do, and won't result in so much of a fury when it all comes out. We were just trying to keep our community safe.
No, and I, now that you've explained it, I completely agree. And sorry, Mayor Marlowe, I didn't mean to, you explained it very well on Facebook as well, and I know you gave me the opportunity to come tonight for further clarification.
I appreciate you actually coming.
Oh, no, I actually enjoyed it. It
Yeah.
opened my eyes to a lot that goes on with the city. But I guess growing up around Orlando and out in the woods, whenever a storm comes through, you batten down the hatches. You know, when the hurricanes come through in the last 5 years that we've had the basketball goal, one of the first things we've always done, lay it over, and we put sandbags on it. I make sure that I know not everybody does it, I'm speaking for myself, but, prior proper planning prevents poor performance. You've got to have things ready to go. So I think it could have been worded a little bit different.
Absolutely.
I appreciate coming around saying, hey, can you drop your goal because of the high winds? It could be it's a hazard. I completely agree, and I understand that part, because there are some where they've just got bricks laying on the thing, and I did it the right way, and sand and water and everything. But I definitely agree, and I appreciate the clarification by you guys and gentlemen and ladies, and for giving me the time. But yeah, that's clarification, and I'll go back to the Newberry group and notify them that it's more or less, hey, storm's coming, lower it down. We're all aware of why the complaint, if it was a complaint, was made. Understood, our neighbors on the other side, realized what had happened, and once it was clarified, everybody else took a deep breath and was like, okay, so I appreciate it.
So I hope you have luck spreading that level of reasonableness.
I will. They, believe it or not, they do
Social media.
listen to me in the neighborhood for pretty well.
And and I appreciate you coming up here tonight and hearing it out. I mean, after 8 or 9 years up here, there is always another side to the story. And every time one of these things flares up on social media, the attempt is to try to say, we're all one community here.
Yeah.
We're all working together. And I can tell you that the intent going out was for that to be a courtesy reminder. And if you're in the business, you probably perceived that as a courtesy reminder because it wasn't a red
No,
thing that
honestly,
said.
Mayor Morrow,
but
I
the-
looked at it because this is my
But it looked hostile.
third time
Right.
with the code enforcement coming to my house.
Yeah.
I'm like, here we go again. What did I do now? You
Right.
know, so it was like, I took it as an affront to myself, like,
But we
Mr.
do
Rick, can
have,
you give
you
me
know,
a
our,
break?
our whole code enforcement is complaint driven.
Yes, sir.
So I see a lot of comments about, well, he's out just looking for things.
well, and that's
That's
the-
generally
I
not
think-
what happens, but when he comes to your house and you say, well, why are you here? Because that guy, well, what you did, not you, but.
Right. No, it was me a couple
hypothetically,
times, and
What you did is
just-
now you just sent him to that house.
Yeah.
So now he has to go to that house because you just reported
Oh, so
on
it-
a neighbor
okay. Yeah.
doing the same thing. So your neighborhood particularly gets some
We're seeing a lot
attention
more of it lately.
because you have a lot of neighbors who are not understanding that when we make these things, we're actually instigating and sending them further. Because as you've said, you know, we've been here a long time. I'm fourth generation Newberry, and you know these things have never. We've always been able to just kind of be neighborly about
Yes, sir.
it.
Yes, sir.
But when somebody calls in a complaint, he can't go to that one house and just give that one person if 5 more are this way and 5 more are this way.
Yes, sir. No, I completely understand, and I appreciate the clarification, especially regarding the storm. I honestly, myself, knew to put it down. However, I didn't put 2 and 2 together, I don't think for the whole neighborhood. You know, I think for myself personally and my family, so.
Well, thank you again for coming up here
Thank you
tonight.
very much. I appreciate it, gentlemen, for taking
Yes,
your
sir.
time.
Any other public comment? Hearing none, we are adjourned.